Well, you know what, we have to tell you, why not, we're here anyway.
Yeah.
We might
That's why I
as well
usually
tell
put
you
the
so
signage
that.
there, so
Pretty good?
Pardon? Yes, yes.
To discuss everything as a whole.
That's true. But you know, my son told me about a while ago that he's, don't worry about everybody.
Ridiculous to the point where
She's another newcomer. That's cool.
Some come and some go. And I still want that country manager job. I'm going to be. Okay.
Presentations for Otsego County Outstanding Employee. Okay. Every so often, we recognize outstanding, semi-annually, outstanding employee for this semi-annual of 6 months. This is Matthew Johnson from Department of Health. Is he here? Come on up. Work.
Thank you.
Here you have a little.
Yeah, come on over here. Thank you. Bear with me here, okay? Twice a year, the PRGS committee, the Performance Review and Goal Setting Committee, is tasked with choosing an outstanding employee, and we have an enormous collection of outstanding employees, and it's just one of the hardest things I've had to do in all my years here is to choose one and not 7 of them from those who are nominated. So we're now acknowledging Matt today. He's from the Department of Health, one of the county employees that have gone above and beyond in his position as community health nurse. He's been an employee since 2015 and a community health nurse for Otsego County since 2017. He exemplifies many of the qualities that make an employee valuable to an employer. Matthew consistently demonstrates examples of leadership through his tremendous work ethic, productivity, and dedication to the individuals he serves. He is dedicated to help the individuals of Otsego County know all of the services and programs that are available to them. And this dedication can be seen in his creation and leading of the Otsego County Living Healthier Expo, which Matt created. And it's really unqualified success and a really wonderful thing in our community. So that's really great. Matt has a dedicated space in the parking lot, and his name has been placed on the plaque which hangs in the entry to the office building. Thanks for your dedication and hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and please rise if you're comfortably able to roll call first.
Frazier? Barba? Here. Clark? Here. Stamble?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Overacker?
Here.
Bliss?
Go get that.
Here.
Marietta?
Here.
McCarty? Wilbur?
Here.
Koenig?
Here.
Martini? Here. Lappin?
Here.
Shannon? Here.
Now pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, pledge of allegiance now is completed. Privilege of the floor. Does anyone like to speak? Sorry, we didn't bring back by the podium.
I like to be able to see who I'm talking to.
Well, I don't think,
And I don't mean to impose, but I don't want you to have to arrest me. I understand the 3-minute rule, Mr. Chairman, and I also understand that it's a privilege, not a right for me to be here to talk.
but I really think we need to follow the decorum and be at the podium, sir. I
Pardon me?
apologize. I really think you need to follow the same procedure as everyone be at the podium. I'm sorry, but that's...
Well, you want to help me back to the
Certainly.
Right.
take your sit. Thank you for cooperation.
Oh, I would have had them put me in jail, but then I'd have to get out on bail.
I got you, don't worry.
He's non-violent, we let him loose.
And I'm violent. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
I only have a third of my lung capacity, and I've just used 3 minutes. My name is Alex Shields. I live in Richfield Springs, District 9, for this board's understanding. 35 years ago, I was elected to this board, and I must say, I've observed many changes. And I want to thank the chairman for his generosity in helping me to get to the back of the room where I belong. I came here today to talk about a couple of things, and quite frankly, I don't have enough time. But let me just say, this idea of a county manager and the resolution today, which I interpret as going for a local law, normally would have no debate other than to set a date for your local law. But having said that, I want to commend Ms. Kennedy and her committee and all the hard work that they do for trying to make things better. Because I think if you're going to pay $150,000 a year for someone, you sure as hell don't have to pay the chairman of the board $22,000 a year. He could probably work for $500. And each of you could get paid $100 per meeting that you attend. And that would save me, the taxpayer, a lot of money. And I think that's great. But as was observed, we have rules. I wonder if anyone took the trouble to see if the rules of the board are going to be anywhere impacted by this position that's going to be given a lot of authority. Only food for thought. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the paper bag law. And unfortunately, I have a question that can't be answered. But I'll just take it as it is, that you're opting in for the 5 cents per paper bag that the state is offered municipalities. I have great respect for use of paper bags over plastic. I spent 3 years on OCC's board of directors. I was on Soil and Water Conservation for 5 of the 10 years that I served on this board. I've been a scoutmaster, and I understand the importance of nature. And having said that, I think putting this 5 cents on the paper bag is probably going to be hard to enforce. And I think, having been a salesman for a wholesale grocery company that sold bags to stores, the cost is marginal to the store that's using them. And I think it's probably not necessary to impose something that's going to be thrown out to the consumer, no matter how well intended it is. You may have had a public hearing, and if my comments are out of order, I sincerely apologize to the board and its chairman for its forbearance for allowing me, again, not my right to petition my government, but the privilege to do it, which I find a little bit offensive. But I want to thank you again and hope that you have a good day, and say that I'm getting out of your hair. Normally I wait until the end to speak, but today, the big agenda that you have, I will give you some peace by leaving. I want to thank you all, And I apologize to my county rep, who's unfortunately not here. He is at least attending the meetings, not Skyping in or calling in. And even though Keith and I don't agree on many things, he shows up and does his work, as does Ms. Kennedy. And, oh, Gary, you ask a good question about capital projects. It's called clerk of the work. And when we hired our director of buildings, he was given that charge. So look within the house for the answers that you have on cost overruns. Thank you. I apologize again for overstepping my bounds today. And I will say, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next. Yes.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Edward Doyett. I live in the hamlet of Welcome in the town of New Lisbon. In regarding hiring a county manager, with a dwindling population in Otsego County in New York State, we should be expanding opportunities rather than expanding government, which raises taxes. County workers, especially department heads, know day-to-day county operations best, and positions at top should be filled from within rather than with a sheepskin, so workers know they can move up the ladder by working hard and achieving, proving that their jobs are not dead-end streets. My recent trip to San Francisco was enlightening. Gas prices on average were $4.29 a gallon, with diesel 10 to 11 cents cheaper consistently, unlike New York with high diesel prices, which causes high trucking and rail prices to be built into every commodity that we purchase. Homelessness was rampant along with drug use, but to a lesser extent in major tourist areas. I noticed on a trip north to Arcata, California, most power lines, like around here, were bare and not jacketed like in towns and villages. So when a tree branch contacts the bare wires, under dry conditions, a fire can start. I've asked the county in the past, as it's never too late to start, require all future power lines to be placed underground where they are also not susceptible to ice and storm damage, with a 50-year timeline for existing lines to follow suit. With solar and wind proposed for vacant farms, new lines are going to blossom like weeds, ruining the beauty of Otsego County like the Marcy South line did. Remember, with most powerhouses in New York City being closed and sold to development, their thirst for power has to come from somewhere else, and we're expendable as usual. You'll find that the price of putting lines underground, I would have to estimate it's probably 6, maybe 7 times the cost of just casting them overhead like is presently done and customary. But guess what? It protects it. It doesn't get damaged in storms. You don't lose power for possibly a week at a time. This is a recurrent factor, and like they all tout climate change, how about doing something and getting something started? In Vegas, when I worked there back in '79, they made that a point. If you went out there, you don't see any overhead power lines at all. Everything is underground, just like New York City. They do it for a reason. It's safety, it's reliability, it's redundancy, and it keeps things going. Thank you for your time and have a nice day.
You first.
Thank you. Next. Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Steve Lundner, 73 Maple Street in Oneonta, District 12. I'm a steering committee member of the League of Women Voters of the Oneonta area. Here with me today is Patty McLeish, who's the communications chair of the League of Women Voters of the Cooperstown area. We're here to present 2 joint statements from our leagues on 2 issues before the board today. I'll speak first on the county administrator, and Patty will speak on the paper bag fee. In 1989, our 2 leagues completed a detailed study looking at the issue of Otsego County government administration. It concluded then that with the recommendation that a non-political county administrator be hired. to assure efficiency and effectiveness in government operations, and to enable our elected officials to better focus their time and energies on important issues of policy and long-range planning. Now, 30 years later, with a budget almost 3 times the size, and facing ever more complex issues in our multi-tiered governmental context, we urge you to create this position and to creatively use all available resources to identify and hire a suitably trained and experienced professional administrator. We are confident that the benefits to our county will far outweigh the costs. Thank you. If you will.
Good morning. I am Patty McLeish, Communications Chair of the League of Women Voters of the Cooperstown area. I live at 85 Lake Street here in Cooperstown. And I'm here this morning to read a joint statement from the League of Women Voters of Cooperstown and of Oneonta in support of the passage of Resolution 286 on today's agenda. The passage of the 2019 New York State Bag Waste Reduction Act on the use of plastic bags to hold purchases, which will be banned in New York beginning on March 1st, 2020. The legislation is an important first step in reducing plastic use in our county, but it is really only a half step towards the goal of reducing all solid waste in New York State, because the ban did not include a related source of waste, paper bags. In general, the public perceives paper bags as being less harmful than plastic bags to the environment. But in fact, paper bags are problematic environmentally. They cause pollution when they are manufactured, and they weigh more than plastic bags, making them costlier to transport at the beginning of their life cycle when they are shipped to merchants, and at the end of their life cycle when they are sent to recycling centers or landfills. It is the cost incurred at the end of the paper bag's life cycle that should be of greatest concern to our county government. If not composted, paper bags become recyclable material, but if they are contaminated or simply not recycled, the bags end up in the landfill. In either case, there is a cost borne by the county taxpayers to transporting paper bags to their final destination, whether it's the recycling center or the landfill. Finally, every single paper bag that is not recycled is taken to the landfill. Legislators in the state knew that the law was flawed, but agreed to a solution of sorts to the potential problem of having paper bags replace plastic bags. The provision to impose a 5-cent fee on paper bags. It is this law's call for the opt-in provision, which allows individuals, counties, and municipalities to decide whether to charge the 5-cent fee that brings our leagues here today. The League is not alone in promoting and supporting the reduction of solid waste. The county itself recognized the importance of waste reduction in its own solid waste management plan. The residents of the county clearly support these waste reduction goals. We need look no further than the many citizens who participate in the successful Hazardous Waste Days and the Earth Day recycling events. Replacing plastic bags with paper bags is not a solution to waste reduction and does little to improve our environment. Our county leagues urge the county board to approve the 5-cent fee. It is good for our environment, and it supports the county's overall waste reduction law goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, thank you all for allowing me the privilege of the floor. I'm Leslie Garzetti, Executive Director of Otsego County Conservation Association. I'll know who I am. I am here as well to advocate for imposing a local law for the bag fee. And it is a fee, it is not a tax, as many people have understood it in the county. I've been going to the Solid Waste and Environmental Concerns Committee and have listened to their debate on it. And indeed, paper bags are actually more environmentally concerning than plastic bags are. Everybody, I passed out a letter that we will submit for the record from OCCA and our recycling committee, giving some statistics on how more environmentally concerning paper bags are to the environment. I know this legislation is not perfect the way it was written. There are a lot of concerns about where the money is going, how the money is going to be collected, and how Otsego County will then receive the 2 cents out of the 5 bags to purchase bags for low and moderate income people. I just put a post on our Facebook page today and started apparently a little argument about it, but no legislation is ever perfect when it's first put out there. And look at our own U.S. Constitution and how many amendments we've made to that. I asked the county board to be brave, to be courageous, and be innovative. No one ever wants to go first on anything because there might be problems. But in the end, if we take this bold step as Otsego County to impose, to be one of the first few counties to impose this bag fee, use the scientific method to collect data to see if the program is working or if the program is not working, we could be innovative. And I've seen a lot of things in the paper, well, we're just Otsego County. What do we count? What do we matter? We're just small. We are small, but we can be first, we can be innovative, and do something right for the environment. So Chairman may approach and leave the letter for the record. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Agello. I am an 11-year employee, and I congratulate the winners, say farewell to those who have resigned, and welcome to the newcomers. My issues actually are several. First, let me tell you that I have been using recycling bags for years. I would have more, but my dog seems to like to eat them, so I am constantly buying them, and they are actually the best things you could do. The insulated bags, I have no worries about what I'm going to put in them because my insulated bag go for my, my meats and whatever. It is a fabulous idea. I highly recommend it to everyone. That being out of the way, the county manager, I recommend Mr. Russ Aarons. He's got all the experience you need. He's due diligence with his clients. He is just fab. They call me and they love him. So I put him in for you. But on a serious note, I was hoping we'd have a county executive. One that the people could choose between Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. Doesn't even matter what party they belong to. But one that we would have an input on. Because the people's matter. They're supposed to. And my fear is that this individual won't have any authority. He will be under you. He'll be the spokesperson for what you wish to disseminate to the public. My third issue, of course, is my home. It was taken in a tax sale, and I want to understand how I get before this ethics review board. I have put it in writing 3 times. I've heard nothing, and I want it reviewed. It was sold to an employee. I don't understand how this could be ethical. I've been fighting month after month after month, year after year. This is everything I had, and yet it's okay to give it away. I live in a little tiny place, which is all right with me. But I want my home and land back. I want it reviewed. And last but not least, thank you, Mr. Oberacker, for the letter regarding the asbestos disturbance on the 3rd floor. It was articulate, I understand it, but that door is still not posted. No one knows upstairs exactly what is going on. 3rd floor, we're employees, we work there every day. Now I ask you, please, you want transparency, you want us to respect you. I'm asking you to respect me. Why is that door not posted, and why have we not have a staff meeting to say, stop it already, or this is the issue? And that is what I am asking. God bless you all. Let's move forward. Let's have a great year, and let's be friends, okay? Let's get along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? May I have the privilege? Thank you. Russell Aarons, 180 County Highway 26. Today I brought a mask with me. Ed reminded me it's not good for asbestos. I knew it too. I just wanted to keep it up in your minds because that stuff blew down here on the second floor too. It's my understanding. So it's very concerning. It's nothing that we should be playing with. Man, I tell you what, every time we turn around there's another problem in this county. I just can't get over how many crappy things are happening. I mean, I thought we had this jail thing settled out. We appropriated money for repairs, as I understand. So what's going on? Well, I talked with somebody recently and they reminded me that we had to take the lowest bid when we built that thing. Personally, I don't have much use for flat roofs, especially in this part of the country. They're just like a recipe for trouble and sadness in the end because, I mean, you can see that we've had collapses and unpredictable snows and incredible amounts of weight that has gone on flat roofs. I think of when I worked at the Cooperstown School, finding trees that were this tall growing on the roof from neglect. So I'm a little concerned that maybe we've neglected the maintenance here around this county. If you look at the old building here behind the original jail, there's a cupola up on top. It's quite picturesque. It's really part of the beauty of Cooperstown. Now it's collapsed down. It's got a nice lightning suppression system on it. It's really a classic looking thing. So then, let's see, ethics violations. So I've been reading up on the business ethics. If you ever want to borrow from my library, you're more than welcome to. Just give me a call, I'm around. I'm an employee here for 20 years now, nearly 20, just a little short of that. The asbestos testing, it really needs to be done and that room needs to be marked. I mean, come on. If you see something, say something, and that's what Maria's doing. County attorney, problems. Look at what's going on down in Delaware County. How could we have such a mess down there? How does a county attorney get so off base and so off with people that they work with that they would do this? It's disgusting. It really makes that county look foolish for what's happening there. Personally, I really hope that that commissioner is doing and did the right thing. You know, throughout counties we talk back and forth. I had never heard anything negative about her up until this time. Still trying to figure out how to be a Purple Heart County. Well, you could start today with a resolution to settle this with Maria. At least pay her the money that this county pocketed, which was equity in her home, which was 1/4 of its actual value. So straighten this out. Yes, it's a matter of money because she can't go on and she can't go into retirement. Social Security would tell you women have harder times than this. And let today be a special day. In over 11 years that I've known her, her husband Ken, this was his birthday today. He would have been 71 years old, but he died of Agent Orange. He was a decorated Vietnam veteran that came to serve this country. Time's up.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to speak? Okay. Approval of the minutes from October 2nd. Available? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Approved. Presentation of petitions, communications, and notices.
I have a notice of claim, Jermaine Connolly versus Town of Springfield and Otsego County. The nature of the claim is for severe and permanent injuries as well as pain, suffering, discomfort, mental anguish, distress, medical costs and expenses, loss of enjoyment of life, past and future sustained in a pedestrian collision on State Highway 80, claiming negligence to the properly maintained State Route 80. The cost is to be determined fair and reasonable amount as a jury may award in such other relief as the court deems just and proper. I have a summons and complaint, Dominic Centrazone versus Otsego County Deputy Sheriff and Investigator Jason Munson in his individual capacity, Otsego County Probation Officer and Supervisor Timothy DeForest in his individual capacity. He claims a violation of constitutional rights has occurred, violation of statutory civil rights, conspiracy and neglect infliction of emotional distress, and the demand is for a jury trial.
Thank you. And today we have a couple of special presentations. First, we have Eric from our County Planning Department to present on the shared services plan.
Morning, everybody. I'm going to briefly go over, I got a few slides here, in our next round of the county shared and Art and Rob. And we had this discussion. We're going to start looking at it. Victor and Art are going to be approaching the local fire districts after January, after everything kind of switches over with the elections and everything else. So we're going to start looking at a countywide solution, and then I think probably the plan is being in touch with the Department of State on our next steps, their recommendations. We have 2 counties that are great resources in Essex and Chautauqua that are both running countywide systems. We've been in conversation with them, and I think we're going to continue that conversation to see what route they may recommend us taking. So it's being discussed.
Thank you.
When I left yesterday, I was under the impression Victor and I were going to the fire departments immediately. So
Are they immediately?
So they aren't going to wait till January.
Okay.
They're going to get that information so that in January we can get the ball running.
Definitive here. Sure, thanks for that. So they're going to be reaching out to them immediately. So just to update everybody.
A question about the 1.8 million that you had identified. Now the county is just where that goes. Does that pass through the county down to the towns? Do we pay them? Just if you could talk a little bit about that.
I'll speak to the highway program because that's the one that our office is managing. Right now that's being set up as basically a 50-50 split. The plan is to recoup funds that are going to come into, we've had significant expenses in the software itself, and then also we're hosting everything on virtual machines in the cloud. There's an expense that goes with that. So we're going to recapture those funds, and then there'll be an excess at the county side to continue this program moving forward. And then we're hoping that the municipalities take that and also use it to purchase equipment and fund things that are going on in the highway departments moving forward. The Treasurer's Department, they came up with their agreements. I'm not sure what the structure is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be 100% county since they are purchasing units and operating everything, or if there's going to be some kind of division of funds. But that was laid out in their agreement, which I don't have a copy of it with me here, but Andrew's been working with the towns recently to get those in place.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, I was wanting to ask why the hydro seeding program didn't work out. So
we reached out multiple times and they never got their agreements in place, and then the work was completed before anything was done. So it just was a matter of not getting anything done there. We tried to get those and tried to assist in getting those agreements, but the MOAs just were never completed.
Anyone else?
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Good work. Okay, now we have Joey Zaveski from Otsego County IDA.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Rowley in the back is on my board of directors, as well as Andrew Marietto, and I'll also ask Megan Marino to waive. She's our Director of Finance Administration. So if you have any questions, you can always ask them as well. I'd like to give you just a real quick update because we all have meetings coming up in a little bit.
The first thing I want to go through is just our general projects that we've been working on. Obviously, as everybody's aware, we've been working with Corning Enterprises. They are completing right now an $11 million plant upgrade. As part of that agreement, the IDA provided a pilot agreement. And that pilot agreement is really important because it requires Corning to retain at least 175 jobs at that site for the next 15 years. So that was a big issue with us. The second project we'll be discussing is custom electronics. We wrote and received a $750,000 small cities grant. The total project cost is about $2.2 million. In addition to the 75 existing workers that they have, they're going to be adding another 50 workers. They've already added about 30 to date, which will bring their total workforce up to about 125. My board asked, well, what is this investment for? Basically what it is that they're making a new product line, which is a smart batteries for portable lighting used in movie productions and locations. And actually the battery sits right in that whole system. They can last anywhere from 12 to 48 hours with that just that battery. Right now that is a film site in New York City on Law and Order that they're using. The system can also has different military applications for deployment and natural disaster responses. And I think New York City is quite upset that they didn't have these in place when they had the blackout over the summer, that they could have turned on their street lights and signal lights. We're also working with Andela Products for Relays class. We've assisted with a $986,000 ESD grant. They're going to be adding about 9 employees to bringing the total workforce to about 28 employees. Total project cost is just under $5 million, and we're actually working with them on developing a new industrial park in Richfield Springs to house their new facilities. These are examples of actually existing work that they're doing in New York City, laying bikeways. Through our Capital Resource Corporation, we've done several different bond financing last year and this year. $10.45 million bond issue for Springbrook, and also a $73 million bond issue refinancing of bonds for Bassett Hospital and Templeton Foundation. In addition to that, this year we entered into a new pilot agreement with Corning, extending it for a $1.1 million investment in a solar array. It's going to produce approximately 806 kilowatt hours, 1,000 hours annually for the company. Another project that we've actually in construction right now is the Cooperstown Distillery here in Cooperstown. We assisted with an $85,000 New York State ESD grant and a $100,000 community development block grant. Total project cost originally was estimated about $430,000. It'll probably go a little beyond $500,000 in investment, and they'll be adding additional 5 workers going to 12 full-time people. I know you've been hearing about the Oneonta rail yards for a long time. Major accomplishment was the generic environmental impact statement was completed this year and adopted by the city of Oneonta. And why that is important is that we really couldn't spend any money on any future development on that railroad until that study was complete, that we actually have a project. So, which is a tough slide to see, but the first project we undertook was in the Oneonta Business Park with Roundhouse Road rehabilitation. The top shot gives you an idea of what it looked like before with potholes and basically dirt. It's now really a nicely refined street. Also this year we acquired an additional 5 acres in the Oneonta Business Park. Provides additional acreage for future development as well as rail access. We are now, and Megan can correct me, I think we're having signs installed actually next week. They've been built. We have a lot of lots, but we don't advertise that they're for sale. So we're actually putting up signs to say that we have available acreage and development property. We've had the state controllers in our office for about 4.5 months, and one of the things that they recognized is that their reports that they generate don't really reflect what we do. This gives you an idea on just the 5 projects we've talked about: Corning Customs, Andela, Cooperstown Distillery, and a new project, the halal processing facility that we'll talk about. There's an increase of approximately 83 jobs. 276 jobs were retained. We're projecting a total new employment of 362. The only thing the state controller's office will report in their reports is that we are creating 6 jobs, because that's a traditional IDA pilot program. They don't consider any job creation from community development block grants or ESP funding. So those additional jobs wouldn't be showing up in their reports, and they're trying to figure out how to reflect their reports that reflect those type of job increases as well. We can't do this by ourselves, and that's one of the things I think that our board really wanted to make a presentation on, are the partnerships. Obviously, the first partnership is with this county Board of Representatives. Last year appropriated $75,000 for the first time in 5 years to our agency as an appropriation. We received $50,000 in program income through the Small Cities Grant that allowed us to hire an engineering firm to work with us in Litchfield Springs. And this county created the Energy Task Force, which is really important to get us out of it and get the county really involved in planning for future energy growth. We also have partnerships in our agency where we've moved all of our businesses in, Otsego County Chamber, the Small Business Development Center, the Center for Agriculture and Development and Entrepreneurialism, and Southern Tier East. To give you an example of how that works, we're working on a halal meat processing facility right now. Cade has been working with 2 owners to look at building a facility that has experience in this. It's really an agriculture-related project for local beef and lamb producers and finding them an outlet for their product. We in turn referred them to the Small Business Development Center, who actually wrote a detailed business plan. They approached us, and we're prepared one grant application. They're looking at a second grant application on their behalf to finance it. So that partnership of having those agencies work together is really showing how we can help businesses. We're working on a partnership right now with the Hartwood Business and Accounting Department. They'll be launching a volunteer income tax assistance program starting in February for 3 months that will train volunteers on how to prepare taxes for low and moderate income families. They'll be using Otsego Now's offices once I have the permission of my board, but that project looks like it's going. Other partnerships in Dell Products. There's 2 companies in Dell Products in Ruby Lakes Glass, our offices. Our counterpart in Utica, Mohawk Valley Edge, assisted us on this project. We obviously have the village of Litchfield Springs and the town of Litchfield actually talking about water and sewer districts and working on agreements with that. And we're doing dialogues with Mohawk Valley Economic Development District on the EDA grant that we're working on. So all of those groups are working together to help with this project. Another is the Roundhouse Road rehabilitation. We couldn't have done it by ourselves. We found a mechanism, our attorneys, to meet with the Corporation Council of the City of Oneonta. They agreed that they could actually contribute to an economic development project. So the City of Oneonta provided us matching funds. The County of Otsego Highway Department, without their help, this project wouldn't have happened. They allowed us to use one of their contractors who has a bid amount for the county, which was much better than what we could have done. And they actually also provided the oversight of the construction and the resurfacing of that road. I don't know anything about road reconstruction, so it was really helpful to have the county oversee the work that was being done there. Other partnerships, oddly enough, through all the environmentalists that were extremely upset with particularly me, not so much the agency. Last year, we now have a group of advisors, Dr. Mark Davis from Hartwick College. He also sits on the Oneonta Environmental Board. Dr. Carl Seeley, also from Hartwick, professor of economics. We have a professor of physics, Dr. Kevin Schultz. Dr. Catherine O'Donnell from Hartwick Sociology. She reminds me that she was one of the most vocal, outstanding people who was against our agency and now is working with us. And Dr. Vogel from SUNY Oneonta Wetlands Ecology is working with us, and Danny Lappin on your board with OCCA Environmental Planner. Another partnership that we're working on is we have Custom Electronics and General Electric Renewable Energy. The Chamber of Commerce has recently taken an active role in organizing this with us to provide looking at alternative energy systems in the Oneonta Rail Park. As minor as this sounds, this is a really big improvement for us. We've been working with the Village of Cooperstown on a $100,000 community development grant, a $250,000 community New York State dormitory grant for Wi-Fi deployment, and in the town of Oneonta, $750,000 custom grant for custom electronics. Those communities are allowing us to administer those programs on their behalf. So there's a real developing of a partnership between our agency and outlying villages to work on programs. Future projects, really quickly. We're planning right now on building a new industrial park. We're calling it the Richfield Springs Eco Business Park. We're anticipating about a $400,000 grant from Empire State Development later this year. And we're in the process of hiring a consultant to assist us on applying for a Federal Economic Development Administration $1.04 million grant to assist with water and sewer extensions to that facility. As we indicated earlier, we're working with a group of people to build a halal meat processing facility. It is anticipated to be about $200,000 from New York State Empire State Development, $195,000 small cities grant. Total cost is about $1.2 million, and we're looking at 13 new manufacturing jobs. We're working with Springbrook on downtown Oneonta with the Ford Building restoration, the creation of new downtown market racing housing. We were working with them on providing assistance on a $1 million grant from New York State Empire State Development. We may consider a pilot agreement. The big issue on here is that that area is designated a New York State Opportunity Zone, and we brought in specialized consultants to work with Springbrook on how to structure that for their investors. And they're really pleased with our work on that. We have a number of planned improvements that you really probably can't see because of the lighting on Roundhouse Road and the Oneonta Rail Yard Business Park. The important ones, we've done Roundhouse Road reconstruction, repaving. We're planning for street lighting this spring. Wetland mapping up in the corner. That was actually done by SUNY Oneonta this summer. That one professor I showed you from SUNY Oneonta actually had her class out there. So people are complaining that they're seeing orange tape on our property and they're wondering if we're selling it. We're not selling it. We're just mapping out where the wetlands are. And then we have site clearance. We have a group of 2 individuals who have come to us. We had a meeting last Thursday that organized about 30 or 40 volunteers to actually go out in the spring and clean up that site of debris and garbage. There's been some talk, and I've been frantically working on trying to complete a county-wide strategic economic development plan for the next 4 years. We expect the draft to be out in December. Then we'll be holding additional town hall meetings early on in the winter and in the spring, and completion hopefully by May. So everybody will have input into what we say on that. Other things we're working on is we're working with the Cooperstown Center. They're having some severe staffing issues regarding nursing and assisted nursing employment. And we're trying to figure out how to best help with that. We're working with a cider manufacturing company that will employ about 20 people in the Oneonta area. Big project that we're working on is a drone manufacturing company. They actually make a hybrid engine for drones that gives the flight time that goes from about 20 to 25 minutes of a normal drone to about 4 hours. It's a major improvement in the operation of drones. We're working with a company out of California that is involved in logistics, and one of the things we'll be looking at is the feasibility study to build a sports dome on the Oneonta soccer fields to make it a more year-round use. Again, in consultation with the New York State Controller's Office, we're redefining our 3 different agencies and the functions of each of those. Quickly, one of my board members says you can't read this, but I don't really expect anybody to read this. These are all the grants that were awarded to us that we're administering. It totals about $2.6 million in direct grants that we're responsible for. Matching funds of about 10.7, so we have about $13 million in projects just in grant programs that we're administering, either through our office or on behalf of county and villages. Other things that we own, people kind of forget, we own the Hale Transportation Facility, we own several properties in the Oneonta Business Park, we own the Oneonta Soccer Fields, we own the Ioxis Manufacturing Facility. All these facilities require ongoing maintenance and ongoing improvements, which is one of, unfortunately, Megan's tasks. But to give you an idea of what people are saying, Richard Ellis, CD Richard Ellis Brokerage Services out of Syracuse, indicated this summer, I have to compliment Otsego now for the high level of maintenance in the industrial park, as it provides for a great first impression to any prospect we bring to the property. Regarding the soccer fields, we appreciate your efforts to give our Delaware League teams a truly positive experience at a really great facility. And regarding Hale Transportation, Megan went through heartaches over this, but we had to repair our fire sprinkler riser leak and the installation of the system's water flow alarm and the installation of new supply valve supervisory monitoring system with remote cellular communications. I have no idea what all that means, other than if there's a fire, it reports to the fire department and the police department. And the president of the company responded, awesome, and thank you for providing these improvements to us. Really quickly, the last couple of slides, I just want to give an idea of some of our neighboring counties. Herkimer County provides about 41% of the IDA's budget directly from county support to their IDA. Delaware County provides about $221,000, about 83% of their operating budget for their IDA. Montgomery County provides only 31%, but actually provides the largest cash of about $316,000. The important thing is on this side is that in addition, Montgomery County actually also loans their IDA monies. They owe them $1.9 million, almost $2 million in monies that the county gave to the IDA for infrastructure improvements at their industrial parks. They only have to be repaid if the IDA generates any money, so that's a big thing. But we are pleased, even though it's a small amount, we are pleased that you guys asked you to put in $75,000. We really do appreciate it, otherwise we'd be at zero. So we do thank you for that. We've identified two categories of how we're looking at spending the initial $75,000, and if we were lucky enough, and I know that we're not this year, but if we were lucky enough to get another $75,000, the big thing on category 2 for the additional money is a new staff planner and energy analyst. Megan is extremely talented, and I'm pretty good, but we're only 2 staff people. So that's who does all this stuff, and our board of directors are listed as here as well. And if you have any questions, contact any of us. With that, I'll stop and open it up for questions.
So I have a couple questions. One on the Springbrook overfloor housing, and I wanted to ask has the council been engaged in that? That's kind of the first I've heard of it.
The city council?
Yes.
My understanding is that they're also receiving, I don't know the exact amount, I think another $500,000 from the city through the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. So Springbrook has been in direct talks with the city about that. Our office has not been in direct talks because Springbrook's taken the lead in it. But yes, they've been having dialogue on that.
The second question is, have you identified a site for the meat processing facility? I mean, we kind of talked about it before, but have any ideas on that?
We've looked at 2 different sites. One is obviously the Oneonta Rail Yard, because it's a vacant, we have a lot of property down there. And it's also zoned for slaughterhouses. The second site we've looked at is the Oneonta Business Park, because oddly enough, it's zoned in Industrial-2. I think that's right, Karen. I'm not. One of our new partners in that project is also county planning, and they're working on the zoning issues with the town. But that's a second site that would be identified as a potential site for the slaughterhouse. Apparently, the code officer also indicated that along
Corporate Drive further on down, there's another meat processing facility, slaughterhouse, that's already down there. So he doesn't see that as a big issue. The reason those two sites are both beneficial is that they have potential for water and municipal sewer that would make the site facility development. But anybody who wants a manufacturing facility, we're welcome to take. I don't mind putting in Richfield Springs or Cooperstown. No, so we're looking at a couple of sites, but we haven't identified the small site yet. And that's really a KA project, we're just helping with the financing.
One of your slides suggested that around a year's time, you're helping create a couple hundred jobs in the area. I saw 200, 300.
80 something, yeah.
But, so it seems to me that this would be a good time to start gathering information from those organizations to find out how difficult it is to attract employees. I assume these are going to be more than minimum wage jobs, they'll be skilled jobs. And if it's difficult, what makes it difficult?
Okay. Unlike the pilot programs where we're just required to ask the company how many jobs did you create, and then we report that to the state controllers. For the small cities grants, which is where our real forte is and where we've created a lot of these jobs, they require detailed surveys of each new employee. So we know how much, what their family size is. We know that they're real employees. They actually sign the document saying I was hired on this date. So we have a good idea of employee records as far as those new jobs being created. Custom electronics is having difficulty. As I said, they're up to 35 jobs. They wanted to create 50. They're having trouble finding people. There's no question about that. As I indicated, one of the other, the Cooperstown Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing, I went there yesterday. They're having a real severe problem finding nurses and nursing assistants. In fact, they're bringing them from Pennsylvania and Virginia to come up here for 6 months, learn their skills basically before they move on to another job, because we're having real difficulty. And that's what they approached us, and how can we help solve that problem. In addition to that problem with skilled people, as noted at the Cooperstown Center yesterday, there's a problem housing those people. And they're really talking, right now they're trying to, by themselves, house the people that they bring up, but they're saying there's not enough housing in the county to make available to new workers. So those are two issues that we need to address. We're making recommendations in the draft countywide economic development strategy on both housing and job training and job recruitment. That's something our agency really didn't want to get directly involved in, but it seems like we've got to bring in other partners to say, what you're doing in the past is not working. We need a better recruitment system and a better training program than what's being done right now. And so we're probably going to challenge that because I promised yesterday that we would work with them on that. So they are challenges.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Thanks, Jody.
And one last thing. You'll be seeing a lot more of Megan. She'll be attending some of the IGA meetings as well. She's intricately knowledgeable of everything we're working on, but she's also much more pleasant to deal with. So you'll be seeing a lot more of Megan. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Jody.
Okay, move on to committee reports. And I see Ms. Halbracker stepped out for a moment, so we will move to IGA.
That might be a problem too. Pete was going to do part of the IGA report. We wanted to
He's right there.
Okay, thanks. We've met several times, well, we met 2 times this month. We met and conducted our regular course of business on our first meeting, and then our second meeting was, we did governance, and we also did have our economic development presentation with Steve Aquario, and Todd Shimkus from Saratoga County came down, along with Alex Lamont from the NISAC staff, and they presented, Steve gave an update on legislative matters from the Albany perspective and how they might be affecting us here at the county level, things that they were working on to try and clarify certain vagueness in laws and different things going forward with regards to, well, the plastic bags. Alex spent quite a bit of time speaking to us afterwards about that and different parts of the judicial reform and what might be paid for by the state and what might not be. So anyway, it was a very educational day, and we enjoyed having Todd Shimkus come down from Saratoga and talk about their model of economic development, which they have 5 agencies, and they're all trying to coordinate their message. But anyway, he's the head of the Saratoga County Chamber of Commerce, and it was a very instructive, just to see how things can be integrated. They have a lot to integrate. We have our program and the process, which has been, we learned a lot. We've spent 22 months of governance meetings, additional meetings every month, on the last Tuesday of each month, and that was steadily the schedule throughout the almost 2-year process. We did an intensive study from similar-sized counties. We also educated ourselves on the various forms of county government, executive, which is, would have required to create a charter for our county and also end up with an elected executive, and a clear shifting of duties from the legislature to the executive. This is not the path that we ultimately chose. The county administrator, county manager roles are similar in that the legislative body maintains its powers as a legislative body, but delegates the duties on a day-to-day basis to the county administrator, as well as some other functions, and those will be discussed through this short presentation. We had several trainings from NISAC. We had phone interviews with county administrators from Livingston County and Herkimer County. We had visits from the Greene County Administrator, Sean Grogan, and also Phil Church from Otsego County. Spent hours talking to us and answering questions and filling out gaps in our understanding of the position. We had interviews with department heads who came in to talk with us on several different days. We had a survey of department heads that we used to look at their answers as we were going through this process. We researched the 1993 resolution from this board. We consulted with the personnel department, and I would like to thank Penny for all of her research and consultation that she gave the committee moving forward with the creation of the job, which was an education in itself, and also with the job description and qualifications for ultimately for the candidate. Also, the county attorney, Ellen, thank you for your guidance and your consultation throughout this very lengthy process, and we appreciate your guidance and suggestions as we've moved through the process. We learned more about our unique designation as the only Board of Representatives within New York State government, and that actually we had Greg Klein there from the Daily Star and wrote an article about it, which NISAC picked up and published on their daily reports, so that we are unique in that. I feel that the committee more fully understands, and the people and many of our colleagues who came to these meetings throughout the 22 months process more fully understand our role as legislators as a legislature, and understand that we will not be diminished by having an administrator. We are maintaining our powers and hopefully getting the opportunity to do more policy and study out situations that deserve a lot more time sometimes than what we're able to give them in our committee meeting time each month. With that being said, I don't remember who we planned to speak next, but I think it was Michelle. Representative Farwell will continue the report.
So I'm just going to give everybody a little bit of context and a little bit of history. Meg covered some of the things I was going to talk about, but as far as history, the county was formed from Montgomery County in 1791 and was a board of supervisors and stayed that way until 1969, when the county voted to change from a board of 24 supervisors to a legislature form with 14 representatives. And if all of you should make a point to read Greg Klein's article, because he explains why we are the only county that is a county of representatives, not a legislature, and it has to do with the weighted voting that became a requirement in the 80s sometime. I'm not exactly sure. I apologize for that. But the basic idea is we're not a board of supervisors. They generally have weighted votes. And we're not legislatures that generally have districts that are sized in equal population, so that each legislature gets one vote. So that makes us slightly unique, and then for context, we have 57 counties in the state of New York, and then there's 5 more if you count the 5 boroughs of New York City, but we won't count them for now. Of those 57 counties, 18 counties have elected executives, and we heard a little bit today about some of the advantages of an executive over an administrator, and there was advantages, come also disadvantages. But I think for context, what we need to know is that of the 18 counties, their population sizes are generally much higher than ours. They range in size between 1.5 million people in the county to 50,000 people in the county. That's Montgomery County, but that Montgomery County is an outlier. The majority of executive counties have very large population sizes. Then we have 32 counties that have administrators or managers, and those 32 counties range in population size between 215,000 and 25,000. And then there are 7 counties that organize their county the way we do, and that is through oversight administration through their board chairs and committees. Some people call that a strong committee system, but ultimately the administration piece is being done by the committees and with the board chair having the authority to sign documents, etc. Those range in size between 62,000 and 5,000, so you can see that we're at the upper limit of those in the 7 counties. And it's interesting to note that 5,000 member Hamilton County is also in the process of creating an administrator position. Columbia County, which is about equal to our size, has the position ready to go. They're having some political disagreement. So, which also brings me to one other part I wanted to bring up in talking about what other counties are doing. This has become a political issue for Otsego County that is kind of indisputable, but I just want to say that it's not necessarily a partisan issue. As you can see, an overwhelming majority of counties have administrators or executives in the state, and an overwhelming majority of counties in the state have the Republican majorities on their chair. So it's not necessarily partisan. That is all I had to say, and Liz is going next.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to talk a little bit about the survey that we did. It was important to get input from the people who are currently working under the committee system, so we surveyed the department heads and the Board of Reps. I went to the department head meeting on March 6, 2018 to include the department heads in our discussion about county governance. At that time, we were using the term county manager generically to refer to an individual with centralized authority in the county. So when we say county manager, it's just a sort of general term. We surveyed the Board of Reps and the department heads to get input on our current committee system of governance and get an idea of what people thought about creating an appointed or elected position to hire someone to oversee the county on a daily basis. We got a good response rate. I think they were sent out to 31 department heads. We got 16 department head responses, and 8 of 14 board reps responded, but 2 of them were on IGA who didn't fill out the thing, but we know what their opinions are, so that was okay. So we feel like we have their responses anyway. So some of the issues that they brought up with the committee system were that although the committees provide an opportunity for the representatives to work directly with the department heads, there are areas for improvement. Meeting only once a month makes it difficult to address time-sensitive issues. Our meetings focus more on administrative tasks than constructive discussions and goal setting. Many department heads have to meet with their parent committees and then also at the administration committee every month, which is redundant. Since we only have 2-year terms for our boards, our representatives, we have a lack of continuity since the terms can change and the people can change. The departments and the committees operate in silos, so everybody does kind of their own little thing and there's no one overseeing the whole big picture. The committees could be more effective if the chairs had some direction and training, and we realized that all the newly elected representatives, department heads, and employees could benefit from formal orientation because there really isn't a consistent system to do that. So the question was, should we improve the current system or should we establish new leadership? So everybody was asked to rank the following 4 choices to make the county government more efficient and productive. 1, leave it as it is with no change. 2, improve the current committee structure and reduce redundancies. 3, consider adopting a local law creating an appointed county administrator or manager position. Or 4, consider creating and adopting a county charter which includes an elected executive position, which turned out to be the least popular one, the elected executive. So, on the one hand, 75% of the board representatives selected creating a county manager or administrator as their first choice. So that was good to know that we had the board kind of on board with this. But 100% of the department heads selected 100% of the department heads selected improve the current system as either their first or second choice. So the county administrator was not a popular thing with the department heads for some of the following reasons. These were some of their concerns. There's concern that there was going to be micromanagement of the department heads. They were wondering who would have the authority to hire and fire the department heads. And many stated that they had experience with county administrators before, and if we got the wrong person, that wasn't going to help at all. And that the position could become politicized. So we sort of slowed down and we looked at it much more closely what the specific responsibilities of the manager or administrative person would be. And we met with some of the reps.
The job, minimum of 40 hours a week to guide this ship that I'll call Otsego County. And lastly, I'll leave you with this visual. On April 15th, 1912, the RMS Titanic had an incident. And the reason they had an incident was because Captain Smith wasn't at the helm. We need someone at the helm. Thank you.
Thank you, committee. I appreciate all of the work that we put in on this. I appreciate all the time. And I just would like to close by saying that it is our plan to hold 2 public information sessions, one in Oneonta, and I'm working with the city clerk at this time to set that one up, and then one at our own courthouse here in Cooperstown. They'd be evening sessions. They would not be an official public hearing, but they would be an information session and a time for, hopefully, we would have some give and take with the public. We would certainly hope that we could listen to some of the concerns. And the exact setup for that, it has yet to be determined, but we're hoping to definitely have those 2 sessions. And then hopefully we'll be setting our public hearing for next month at this meeting. Our next IGA meeting is November 12th at 9 a.m. And then we have our governance meeting on November 26th. So that concludes my report. Thank you, colleagues, for listening to us. Thank you, Chairman Bliss, for allowing us to give this report during my report.
And I'd like to thank Meg and her committee for all the work they did. They spent a lot of time on this and did a very thorough job, and I think a great job. So, thank you. Any questions? I think that was pretty thorough. So we'll move on to Public Works and Representative Obermeyer.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss. What I would like to do, if I could, is call for an executive session. As I looked at the reasons for executive sessions A through H on the list, A says matters which may imperil the public safety if disclosed, or F, the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person, corporation, or matters leading to the appointment. So I tend to believe that either one of those are pertinent. I'll let you determine which one you would like to. I'd still like to call for executive session.
Okay. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll take a brief recess for executive session.
I think it's on the facility. What I said, mostly, yeah, I can email you my talking points. Yeah. Oh, it's not like a pic. Let me put it into a paragraph then. Yeah. Okay. I will. I'll do that. Hey.
Waiting for us to come back. So we now, Representative Obermeyer will continue his Public Works report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Start off by announcing our next Public Works meeting, which will be November 14th at 9 a.m. here in the second floor conference room. So real quickly, some quick updates from the Highway Department. Our crews have changed across Culver on County Route 13, 27, 35, and 3 on County Route 54. Our county forces continue to haul sand to various towns. We have a couple of towns left to finish, along with 3 of our own locations, and hopefully, we will have our sand requirements for winter. We've had a few, storms come through. It's been kind of busy, which have kept our crews really busy with cleaning up trees, gravel, washouts, and so on. Garrettsville Patrol Garage, the sand pile area has been paved, which is one of on our to-do list. We supplied our shoulder machine with an operator to the town of Butternuts, the town of Lawrence, Otsego, and Cherry Valley this past month, trying to, again, help out where needed. Our sod crews cut shoulders and clean ditches along sections of County Route 34, 39, 38, and 37. So all 3 of our grade alls have really been busy all around the county. And we are in the process of getting all of our plow and sand trucks ready to go before the snow arrives, which, according to the last weather update. I guess we're starting our season a little early by having snow tomorrow. So I want to again wish all of our plow operators safety and thanking them in advance for the really the job that they do. Building maintenance, we've been dealing with several issues along the line. We are in the process of evaluating the best ways to address those issues, bringing things into compliance, and moving forward with taking those off of our to-do list. One area that I'd like to just focus in on is we had Mr. Greg Royer and Mr. Brian Murphy, who presented to Public Works the results of an investment grade audit. They kind of gave us some financial charts which listed options for energy conservation, measures on the 10 county-owned buildings, including but not limited to costs, savings, and possible incentive payments. So again, we're trying to look at all county-owned assets and what would be the best way to take care of those moving forward. So the next steps include coming potentially before the full board in November and letting the full board know what we've come up with, determining and regarding which upgrades will be performed, and contacting a potential lender for the financial aspects of that. Public Works dealt with some other questions. One I'd like to read in as well. I read a lot of letter at the last Public Works meeting from the Village of Cherry Valley regarding one of our surplus Tahoes, and the committee discussed the request. We went and had a motion to transfer the Tahoe to the Village of Cherry Valley with the understanding that the village will decommission any remaining parts of the emergency package, the striping, and the which identifies it as an Otsego County Sheriff's vehicle, and so we approved that. We did some other employee and filling of positions, and then we also we took in a bid for the Clifton Street property. This was discussed about accepting the bid, which was for $100,000, and this is for the Clifton Street property located in, what is it, Unadilla. So we did approve that to move through. In a short and concise manner, due to the extensive updates we had on Public Works, I will take any and all questions, and again, have a think about our employees and their plow trucks as they move to remove that nasty stuff we call snow. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to Human Services Representative Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just kidding.
I'll be brief. I've always thought that committee reports should read as follows. You've all read the minutes. Any questions?
I love it.
Maybe I'll do that next time. But we had a fairly simple meeting after the budget, all the issues have been passed on the budget committee, and we resolved that this month in November would be Adoption Awareness Month in Otsego County, and also we resolved to purchase homeless management information systems, so all the agencies in the county that deal with homelessness in any way can actually talk to each other, and more importantly share data and statistics, so that we can start to get to understand the issue a little better than we do. You all, I'm sure, know that all good progress starts with an understanding of the baseline data, and that will help us a lot. A bunch of contracts. We always have a lot of contracts. We split them up among the months at the end of the year. We approved the contracts that are all pretty routine, pending the approval of the county budget itself. Fiscal health is good. Had some personnel. We have, as usual, vacancies, and filled those vacancies. It talks about housing, good news. Sumat has identified some money that she's getting through the Department of Mental Health, I think, that she can use to support the tiny house project, specifically the community center there. Still working on adjustment of the 242 and the changes that are going on there. And update on burials. You probably know that the county is responsible for indigent burial, and DSS is the agency that is responsible for that. And so we've been talking to both the coroners and an organization of funeral home operaters about a number of things, including the fact that the fee for indigent burials hasn't been raised in an enormous amount of time, and so we're working on that. Health and Ed is also working with that because they talk with coroners pretty regularly. Our next meeting is November 13th at 9:30 a.m. upstairs, 3rd floor conference center. You're all welcome. And I'll take questions.
Any questions? Okay, PSLA, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on October 17th. We had a relatively short meeting. We were efficient, I guess. Tony Gentile from Codes came in. We discussed property maintenance issues and how the county can help some of the local municipalities keep their properties regularly inspected and compliant. We also talked, Tony brought to us Board of Elections request to do some, split some offices up and move some offices. He was directed to go back and speak with Director of Building Services and how they need to work that out. Art Klingler and Victor Jones from Emergency Management came in, Emergency Services. We approved the acceptance of some grants, Emergency Management Performance, and a State Homeland Security grants. We discussed the Fire Training Center again. That RFP is out today. That's out being looked at today. That will be due back to us by November 19th. I think we had a little mess up with a date there because our meeting's the day before. Our next meeting's the day before. I'm going to try to either move our PSLA meeting to later or get that date for the RFP to be moved forward so we can discuss that at the next meeting. Mike Trossett from Public Defender came in. He had applied for the Upstate Quality Improvement Caseload Reduction Grant. That is, we got it's $179,000 over 3 years. That is something that was delinquent, that was backlogged and we hadn't picked up on. He applied for that, and we've done very well. And he also told us that phase 1 of the CAP has gone into that's happening at the jail. That began October 1. And that seems to be doing well. That will change some in phase 2, effective January 1. And we discussed our EMS, our countywide EMS services and how well we can affect that. I talk about this every month. It is an ongoing conversation. Eric spoke about the meeting we had yesterday with the 911 director, Eric, and the EMS men. We are looking for funding, and we're considering multiple options of how we can supplement the system that's in place, the volunteer system. It is delinquent just about everywhere in the county. I think we can do better. In the paid services in the city, the lack of volunteer and the mutual aid is straining the city system now. So we're going to do better, and we're going to be moving forward. So our next meeting is the 19th, the 18th, and 12:30 at the county office building, and I'll answer any questions.
Any questions? Good, thank you, sir. Health and Ed, Representative Stanley.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss. The committee met on October 7th. Just quickly touch on some of the most prominent decisions we made, or actions we took. We heard from Sue Matt of Community Services. The committee authorized sizable payment from the criminal actions line, about $23,392. As Gary referred to, Sue's been really skillful at lining up grant funding for various things, and she's being very, very generous with those funds. So we did approve $50,000 for the community center at the Tiny Homes project. And we're moving towards probably $50,000 for 2 additional tiny homes as well through those funds. Additionally, some of the grant funding went to $10,000 for door and electric hardware improvements at 242 Main, as well as $30,000 for replacement flooring at 242. We met with Stacy Haynes again of the Susquehanna SPCA. Stacy did a really great job of putting together a report that really sort of outlined all the actions that that agency takes to assist the county, and she tried to sort of assign a value to all that work that's being done. She at a figure of about 75% of their actual cost, that would be valued at about $64,809, which would be in her reasoning a sensible county allocation from us. So the committee discussed that. It's a very helpful report. I think it was also shared with the budget committee, but if it wasn't, I can try to have Stacy get that to you.
I did get a copy of it. I do know that. I don't know if everyone on the budget committee saw it, but I know I did get a copy of it. Yeah.
So some food for thought.
Thank you.
Sure. Committee met with Tammy McDonald of OFA. We approved a $20,314 contract with Otsego Rural Housing Assistance for the installation of ramps at homes for folks who are 50 years of age and over. The committee also continued its discussions about our relationship with Cornell Cooperative and the county funding, annual funding. I think it was the general sense of the committee that we maintain that funding going into the next year, and that's been communicated to the full board as well as the treasurer's office too. Those were really the high points that we hit. We're scheduled to meet again November 18th at 9 a.m. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, I'd just like to add on the Stacy Haynes thing, there's a little confusion because first she went to PSLA, then she came to us, and then during our meeting, I think it was Danny suggested, can you give us a 3-year
That was Kathy.
Oh, okay, Kathy. An average of the cost instead of the 1 year, which she emailed to the committee and I think Meg, which lowered her total cost because there was 1 year like there was 90 annual, so I think she's more in the 40-something thousand range. However, I think Al's trying to get the budget done this week, so I think we're out of time on this. I don't know what we're going to do, but we don't have a contract. We really haven't discussed it. She didn't go back to PSLA. There's a little confusion about how this could move forward.
And I think if the county does formalize its relationship with the agency, where which committee would be the contact point, I think a lot of our intersection with them does happen through the public safety realm, but then there's also the animal disease side of things that could be H&E.
But if we're really talking about the funding that we're going to do has to do with cruelty to animals, that really goes through the PSLA. I mean, right? Because the sheriff's department deals with that, and the DA and those people. It's not. I mean, there is a public health aspect of it, but I think if we're going to be paying for the animal cruelty part of it, it should go through PSLA. But.
I mean, I think it could really go through either one.
Yeah, but the sheriff, they're already on the task force together, the DA and the sheriff and Stacy, or they're already kind of working together on that, This is not our...
I think it's a really kind of a worthwhile initiative to investigate or to support. I think that it's important that the services that the shelter provides to the county are reimbursed by us. The other option, is the shelter could bill us on an as-needed basis, which is much less flexible or much less predictable, I should say, than what we would engage by entering into a basic contract with them. And if we were to bid out the services, I believe that, we would not find as willing and qualified a partner for the shelter.
But then more closely resembles the relationships that they have with the towns, so fee-for-service model.
Correct. Yeah, and I honestly think there's multiple avenues for them to explore as well through the shared services plan for 2020 theoretically as well. However, given the quality of the proposal, it'd be interesting to, worthwhile in my opinion to pound it out.
Any other questions? Solid waste and environmental concerns,
So, I wondered why this page was on my desk. And then about halfway through Pete's report, I was, I know why it's there now. I get to do a report. So, at the Solid Waste and Environmental Concerns Committee, October 21st, we, the first thing that we did was ratify the 2020 budget for the VAGS, Solid Waste Management Plan. It's a group of towns, and their budget for this plan has to be approved by Shenango, Delaware, and Otsego. So budget was in good order, we approved it. Then we had extensive discussion on the 5-cent bag legislation. That we did move forward to put that on the floor for more discussion today. So it does appear in a resolution, and we can definitely, I'm sure we'll be talking about it more. We approved budget transfers. We approved a contract for the trash talk that they do on Town Square Media. We listened to the solid waste reports, 3,636 tons for September. Recycling costs, $145.15 a ton. That was kind of a, I think that was a little lower than the previous month, for 345 tons of recycling. And this is obviously something that we've been working on, and pertinent to that discussion, Delaware County Solid Waste Management Center is having an open house on Saturday, and Karen invited all of us to come over and do that. Unfortunately, I can't go because Saturday's the farmer's market day, but I would encourage anyone that could make it to go over. The model that Delaware County is using is something that could offer maybe a pathway forward to us as we are confronting those costs to do with recycling, and we really don't want to just start dumping those things into the landfill. So if we can get a hold of, a way of keeping that cost down, it would be well worth investigating. 203 mattresses were recycled. We watched an ad on recycling that is now showing that I'm not sure if it's on Spectrum at this point, if anyone has seen it, but it will be, so look for it. It is? Okay. So I know those get pretty wide air coverage, so hopefully that will help. We discussed the creation of a catch basin as part of the maintenance at the Northern Transfer Station. And I would just like to add that glass is now being separated out from the regular trash at the Northern Transfer Station. Cardboard is being separated out from the trash at Northern and Southern. And Southern is also doing a voluntary food collection. So these are all strategies that are trying to reduce that tonnage of garbage going into the landfills. And Our next meeting is November 21st at 9 o'clock at the Meadows. And any questions?
The glass and cardboard are being separated, is that a voluntary thing, or
Yeah.
are they directing it to?
Have a separate bin, right?
They have a separate bin, yeah. Like if you bring it there separately, they'll take it. Yeah. They don't.
It's going through it and sorting it afterwards.
Right.
People dump it in the wrong one, it's there.
So be it, yeah. But if you pull it out ahead of time, you can take it.
If you've got somebody who's going to take cardboard for free.
Right.
And so that gets that out of the recycling stream.
Actually,
And just to add a little bit about that, the 5-cent bag legislation, that's a very complex issue, and we did discuss it at pretty great lengths. So, any questions?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on
Okay.
that one. So I think it's a March 1st implementation date for that.
Yes.
So if we make a decision one way or the other today, could we revisit it at a later date prior to March 1st or after March 1st?
Probably. Whatever we have in place by March 1st, I would say, would be what we would go with.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of it, and when we had Alexandra Lamont from NISAC here a couple weeks ago, we were still asking questions, and she was still saying, well, DEC hasn't really returned a definitive answer on that portion. But what we do know is the 5 cents, and that we would get 2 cents of every bag, and that we would be allowed to use that money to buy and distribute reusable bags and to low and moderate income people.
Great, thank you. You get to jump right back up, eh?
Oh, thank you, Chairman Bliss. So, administration. We spent the morning of the day of that meeting on the third-party administration of our workers' compensation fund. We interviewed 3 potential candidates. The winning candidate we will be voting on later today. They administer our entire workers' compensation plan for us for a fee. We reviewed the premium projections for the county's insurance program with Mike Hutcherson. We had visits from many department heads, clerk of the board, requested budget transfers and modifications, renewed our contract with Hummels for office supply, and submitted the standard workday and reporting days for new hires with regards to the New York State and local retirement system. We also set the public hearing for the tentative budget for Tuesday, November 26th at 6 p.m. in the courthouse. And Carol also presented, and we accepted and approved the tax base, inside-outside valuations, special district valuations, equalization rates, true value, and tax roll expense reports, which are included in today's agenda. Public Defender presented the same information that Ed shared with us earlier today about the New York State Quality Improvement and Caseload Reduction Grant. He also introduced to us a new hire whose position is to be a grant administrator, and that is being paid for with the funding from the judicial reforms. I'm not exactly sure which one. He updated us on the centralized arraignment at the jail. And also, then we had the Board of Elections was in for their last meeting prior to early voting starting, which I know that some of us early voted, and from everything that I've heard, the process went very smoothly, and we were well prepared to handle that new opportunity for people to vote early. We did, however, have to pay for it, and that's what we discussed at admin. We approved purchases related to the equipment purchases and also the electronic poll books. And An interesting discussion also followed on contracting with the printer for election materials for 2020, because with the new equipment we would have on-demand printers, so the need for pre-printed ballots is something that needs to be looked at and kind of find the right balance on how to handle that going towards the 2020 election. Planning. We are moving forward and accepted a proposal to begin phase 1 of the healthcare consortium, which would bring in all the employees from the towns and villages and hopefully reduce costs for them. So we're moving ahead on that front. We discussed transportation and ArcGIS, and we approved the electrical construction for agency housing. We awarded the low bid. Community services, as Andrew mentioned earlier, we discussed their contribution to the agency housing and did budget transfers, and also so I think Andrew may have also mentioned the ORHA contract to build the ramps. Highway with repair on a bridge in Mount Vision. Personnel, we approved the policy and complaint procedure that Penny presented us. Also, we approved the personnel department to post jobs on business page with LinkedIn and Instagram, hopefully to attract candidates to our open positions throughout the county. DSS, we purchased materials related to homeless management information systems, and also we renewed many contracts and did a budget transfers. Building services required budget transfers. They updated us that they're hoping to do a paving project, and we also discussed change orders on the jail renovation project. County attorney, we discussed we approved the workers' compensation budget for 2020, and we also approved the DMCOC contract for the next 3 years, and Jim and Ken are here if we have any questions regarding that contract for the tourism promotion agency for the county. So if you have any questions, they are here today to answer them for us. We passed the local law and the job description for the county administrator. The IT department discussed the new phone system at 242 Main potentially, and the treasurer presented budget transfers, and we accepted a $100,000 bid for 16 Clifton Street.
Open session, one of which was choosing the outstanding employee that you saw today. The other was to talk about the schedule for the remains of the year. We've had a number of department heads who have not been able to make it to their evaluation date for the PRGS, and that has ended up leaving us lots of department heads left over at the end of the year who need to be scheduled, and we may have to go into January to finish them up. So that's what we discussed.
Let's go to technology and strategic planning. Marietta.
I had a meeting. It was just me, which
that's the best kind of meeting.
Was the best kind of meeting. Well, Art Klinger and I we had a meeting. So, but I mean, we're just pushing to try to get the last 2 committee work plans done, which was why Art was there, just trying to collect actually some of the things that have come up and that PSLA continues to talk about, just capturing those and integrating them into the work plan. So that was the focus of that discussion, and I hopefully some other people can join, but the next meeting day would be November 15th, and that date was selected because Kathy Sennett Gardner can attend, and then Hank Schechter would also like to attend, so we're kind of getting a little, trying to finish the PSLA piece in capturing Kathy's feedback with the county clerk, and then trying to collect some more of the missing feedback on admin. So Hank wanted a kind of a more dedicated meeting, and I think possibly we're looking at seeing if Brian, I had talked with him briefly about IT, and he would like a little more time to, he has some planning documents he's developed that we're going to try to take a look at. So November 15th, we would be possibly meeting with at least 2 people, maybe 3, at 9 a.m.
Okay, any questions? And now that she's had a little time to catch her breath, budget, Representative.
Just stand.
Budget. So, we're meeting again on the 7th for the Budget Committee. We had a great deal of discussion at our meeting, and I knew that today's meeting was going to be really kind of a long meeting, so I did not really prepare a super detailed budget report, but we are narrowing the gap between what we want and what we have. So we'll be meeting again on Thursday at...
So tomorrow.
At 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock. Yeah.
It is a 7.
Yeah, and I have a land bank meeting at 1, so, and it's supposed to snow in each, so, yeah, should be a great day tomorrow. So, any questions about the budget process so far?
Could we just get a copy of the budget cuts to date that have been made through the committee? Because we
I know
usually
that
get an update on
Andrew was planning on preparing a document like that. I don't think that I haven't seen it, but I heard that it does exist.
Yeah, and the most recent proposal for Exhibit B would be also helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I'll ask him to send that out to the board. Budget cuts to date.
Yes.
And it's November 26th would be the actual budget hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
On the tentative budget.
At
yes.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock?
6.
Oh, sorry.
November 26th at 6 o'clock.
6.
County Courthouse.
Yes. And we will be scheduling, so look for this, we will be scheduling another full board workshop for the budget, purposes of discussing the budget. Carol and I have to put our heads together and come up with that. It actually is going to be before the tentative budget. That's correct, right, Carol? I mean, that's what we've always done.
It has to be after the tentative is filed, which is the 15th of November, and before the board adopts the budget in December.
So sometime between November 15th and when we adopt it on December, hopefully we'll adopt it on December 6th, 5th, or
4th, December 4th.
Wait till the second meeting?
To adopt the budget?
Yeah.
No.
We have, all of the things that are counting on it being done, it has to be done on the 4th.
Yeah, the IT and the budget, they need time to actually prepare the tax bills and get it out.
Yeah.
So we can't beat that one.
So look for that email for when that workshop is going to be.
Any other questions? That's the end of the special committees. Anyone that would like to report on any other meetings they've attended or anything they represent? Yes, Michelle.
This is not a report, but just to let everybody know, after you go to the solid waste facility at Delaware County on Saturday the 9th at 10, you can also come to the American Legion building in Gilbertsville, where their Butternut Valley Alliance is putting on a talk at 3 p.m. called When Main Street in a Rural Village is a State Highway. by a transportation planner. So I have in my town, in Gilbertsville and in Morris, a lot of people have concerns about the speed of traffic through State Highway 51, which is also Main Street, and Marion Avenue in Gilbertsville. So this talk is meant to address residents' concerns about how these different strategies to slow down traffic through our villages and past our schools. So that's something I just want to let you all know about. And then the other thing is tonight at 5 p.m. We're having our large task force meeting of the Energy Task Force, and we'll be hearing from Mark Lowry from the DEC about the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and how the state plans to unfold that. So that's another thing you could attend if you'd like.
Anyone else? Okay. Be available the special reports that are in your file for equalization rates for the 220 tax roll, inside and outside valuations for the 2020 tax roll, special valuations, county tax base, tax roll expense, and then true value for the 2020 tax roll. Any questions or comments on those? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda.
We need to accept those reports, and you need to dispense with it.
Right.
Reading.
Special, so a motion to accept those special reports.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. So we'll move on to the consent agenda in general. Motion to dispense with the reading of all reports and resolutions.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. We did the second for the reports. Any representative wish to remove any item in the consent agenda? 286 has already been requested. Any others? Hearing none, we'll have a call for action on the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion second. Roll call vote. Andrews.
Frazier?
Aye.
Farwell?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Stammel?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Overecker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty? Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Martini?
Aye.
Lappin?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
$5,853 ayes, 0 noes, 375 absent. Consent agenda is passed. Resolution 286.
Resolution 286, supporting enactment of local law to impose a 5-cent fee on paper bags pursuant to state legislation. McCarty, Kennedy, Koenig, Lappin, Farwell.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I'll start.
Okay.
I think we should start by all stipulating that the law as written from Albany is one of the least and most poorly thought out laws that we've seen in a long time. It's terrible. Nobody likes it, but it's the law we've got. And right now, at this moment, and you know how it works, it could change in the next moment. But in this moment, that's the law we've got to respond to. In terms of the issue itself, I always thought this was a slam dunk. You have the opportunity to get a free reusable bag. If, in fact, that is too difficult and you want to pay for convenience, then you can pay for a 5-cent bag, and that 5 cent goes, some of it anyway, goes to providing more recyclable bags, reusable bags for folks. And as we heard this morning, that cuts down on the
they're really, I started reading about paper bags, I had no idea. The environmental impact both on the front end and the back end, producing them and shipping them and sending and landfilling them. So I just don't see the point of saying, sure, we're not going to use plastic bags, but we are going to increase the environmental impact of shopping by vastly increasing the number of paper bags we use, which are almost, in some cases, worse, but in a very different way than plastic bags. I think with the 5-cent fee, we have an opportunity to provide an incentive to get rid of the plastic bags immediately, of course, and the paper bags slowly as people become more and more used to using reusable. It's a slam dunk as far as that goes.
Anyone else?
I think that the best way to approach this legislation at the state level is to use an incremental approach based on data and analysis. This law, as Representative Goodnick mentioned, is going to be iterative in nature. It's going to change. It's going to evolve. But our negotiating perspective is not benefited by, knee-jerk reaction to not impose the fee without any evidence to suggest whether or not it's working. I believe that if we are to pilot it and carefully monitor the data collected from it, we'd have a much more negotiating power at the table at the state level to propose beneficial changes to the legislation. Not to mention that not imposing the 5-cent fee on paper bags would contravene the own provisions of our adopted solid waste management plan and our commitment as a county to being environmentally responsible to our strategic prioritization plan. I think that over time, it's incumbent on us as representatives to communicate deficiencies of state legislation with our state representatives. But in order to make a compelling case, we need data to back our assertions. And the only way to get data is to test out this program. And so I'm in support of this resolution.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I think if this is a fee and not a tax, and that they are saying the counties are going to impose, and that's what it's saying, the county has to opt in to impose it, the county should reap the benefits of it. The county should get the 3 cents for their environmental programs rather than taking that additional 3 cents that's not used to purchase bags and putting it in a state environmental fund that every county who didn't impose the fee will still get to benefit from. I think we should benefit from it. Thank you.
If you want to respond.
Yes. I think it's important to remember that our tax dollars already go into ETF, in which everyone benefits. I think that if we were to demonstrate our volume and suggest, and along with other counties who have done it, suggest that the revenue be reapportioned, I think we'd have a better shot with a quantitative figure rather than not refusing to adopt the fee just out of principle.
Yeah, it seemed like when both Assemblyman Salka and Senator Seward were here, they kind of liked the idea that maybe if we could use the money for our own recycling program instead of getting the bags, they seem to support that idea. So on one hand, I'd like to wait till they did that, but I'm pretty much convinced now that the idea of instituting this now so we can see if it does anything in the meantime, I think is important because it should help hopefully incentivize people to reduce their use of bags in general. So while I kind of would like to wait and see that we can get more of the money, I think this is a good approach to take right now.
In response, I just want to say I think that our leverage is greater when we say we're not opting in because this is the reason than if we're already in. We've already got them, so what if they don't like the fact they're not getting money out of this? I think we lose leverage by doing that.
Go ahead.
My opinion.
I think it's important to think about the evolution of legislation. So while we may have more leverage to suggest that we're not going to opt in now. The state could theoretically impose it statewide with all the revenue going back to the state and none of it going to the counties. I mean, that's a very real possibility. There is a certain amount of frustration with the lack of state responsiveness on the state's part. But I think that it would be, a good, decent revenue source for environmental protection if we were able to, opt into the fee and, again, propose logical amendments to the legislation. I mean, it could all be for naught if the state changes it anyway, but that kind of renders both points, challenging.
If we don't opt in now, can we opt in at a later date?
We don't have guidance on any of that at this point. No, it's one of the things I hate about the law.
But there has not been a stated deadline other than the implementation of the law by which we have to opt in.
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, I understand, yeah.
We may or may not. That's unclear.
My understanding is that we can, right, Shane?
I mean, the text says that it has to take effect on or after March 1st. So I imagine you can do it later than now. I don't know if you can after March.
Get the thumbscrews out.
What's that, opting in?
Yeah, you can. It doesn't have to be now, but I don't know if you can after March 1st. I imagine you do. It's not clear.
By the same token, can we opt out at a later date?
Well,
after we opt in?
If you opt in now. Yeah. Well, you can always repeal a local law.
Okay.
And then that would do it.
Not quickly, but...
So I've got concerns that not only is the county, we wouldn't be getting our fair share of the fee under this current law or proposed law, but also the businesses aren't being made whole. So it's the businesses that are paying for these more expensive paper bags rather than the cheaper plastic bags that they had been paying for. They're either going to take a loss on that or they're going to pass it along to all of our consumers, including us, including the folks that have those reusable bags. I think it's so a lot of us folks will end up getting hit multiple times. We'll pay for the paper bags. We'll end up paying more, for additional cents that are tagged onto everything that we're buying at stores. I think if we're all in agreement that this is not a good state law, I definitely am more inclined to go the way that Kathy described it. I think it sends a greater message. If no counties are signing on to this law, there's a problem with it. And if the state legislature reconvenes in January, they'll see that and hopefully pass and approve the law.
Ed, I think, was next.
I was under the impression we were here today to discuss this because we were going to implement something. It was going to give the retailers time to adjust to whatever was implemented by March 1. I have spoken to several in my district. They have no clue what's going on. This is new to them. They're like, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to do? I can't imagine any of my men walking into a lumber store and saying, here's my reusable bag, give me 10 pounds of screws here. We aren't going to do it. So it's going to affect the cost of everything. And, when there are so many questions about something, there's reasons to, pull back the reins. And I just, it's not clear to anybody what it is, and I'm not going to be able to support it today.
But the last time I looked at the map, and is Shane still here? I can't see you. I didn't realize that. But you showed us a map of the state and the counties that had opted in, and the counties that had opted out, and the counties that had not yet decided. It looked like about half of the upstate counties had not decided. The other half have opted out, except for Ulster County. But down in the city and the suburbs have all opted into the 5 cents fee. And so there are counties, and there are counties probably representing at least half or more of the citizens of New York that have opted into the 5 cent fee. And the other thing is that one of the things that we hate about this law is that it doesn't send any of that money to the stores themselves. And in fact, earlier versions of this a year or two ago did include the stores, and somehow they were left out. But again, if it works as an incentive, and fewer people use paper bags, all the things that you laid out, which are true, would be diminished in their impact because we'd be using fewer paper bags.
Anybody new first?
So just speaking a little bit to both Representative Stammel and Representative Kukner, I have I guess some of the sticking points for me are the fact that so many counties have not made a decision yet, and that we have so many questions that have not been answered. I know that I'm not expecting perfect legislation. I understand that the behavior we need is for people to start using reusable bags, and that using paper bags in place of plastic bags has harms in some areas that are even greater than the plastic bag. So I understand that we do need this. I just am not sure. I just feel like we need more answers from the state. And one of the questions that we asked of NISAC when they came here was, can a store charge an additional fee on a paper bag to cover their own costs? Because one of the things I do worry about is what Representative Stammel says. They're going to pass that cost on to all of us unless they pass it directly to the customer who's using the paper bag, which I think is the preferred outcome, because just like with solid waste, we want the people who are creating the problem to be the ones paying for it. So I think that the best course of action for the county to take is to table this resolution today and try to get the answers we need as quickly as we can before March 1st, and then make a decision later. So that would be my motion to table.
Second.
We got to take care of the motion that's already on the table right first, but Danny, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, just to point out, the scientific method involves coming up with a hypothesis such as those posited by Representative Stammel and Frazier, and then testing said hypothesis with actionable data, and then reevaluating, what works or what doesn't. I have trouble saying what will happen without knowing what So, if we're able to, but I do recognize the importance of getting data, the necessary answers from the state, that Representative Farwell mentioned. But at the same time, when we talk about passing on the cost to the consumer, if you buy a package from Amazon and you dispose of your cardboard, it costs us money to recycle it. The consumer, the cost of kind of just the waste generation in the packaging industry as a whole passes all of that cost onto the consumer or the county or whoever indirectly, of course. But that that point should be acknowledged for Coca-Cola bottles, TVs, now without the state rebate, cardboard boxes, all sorts of packaging. I think it's important to remember that, and that paper bags aren't the only sole villain in that.
The consumer ultimately pays for everything, or the taxpayer.
Just to point out that stores already pass on the cost of their bags to us. No matter what our ability to pay, everybody has to pay for their bags, whether they be plastic or paper. Now, that would improve as we move on. In terms of tabling till later, there was a sense in SWEC that we wanted to complete this by the end of the year so that the new board would need to take it on. That wasn't a very high priority to me, but I wanted to allow whoever feels strongly about that to speak to that.
Point of order, we just pointed out that motion to table was seconded, so we either need to vote on that motion to either table or not to continue the discussion. So we need a motion, a vote. We'll do an all vote. Do you want to suspend discussion and table it, or do you want to continue discussion? All in favor of tabling, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried, so it's tabled.
Chairman, just to educate me about tabling, so if we table today, does that mean we have a X X number of times before we pick it back up again, or?
I believe we can readdress it the next meeting.
I think in the next 2 meetings.
The next 2
but I'll
meetings.
Send all of you out and just let you know exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, that takes care of what was originally sent to January, moving on to resolution, regular agenda, resolution 286. No, this one we just did 287. 287.
Resolution 287, transferring premises in the city of Otsego to Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank Incorporated. Kennedy, O'Brien, Fraser, Cookman, Stanley, McCarty.
Here, discussion. Just be advised, this does require a 2/3 majority to be passed.
I thought we did this already. What did we do on this property? This is the 18 Cherry Street thing?
Yes.
Didn't we do something about this a couple of years? I thought we did this.
Voted to
I don't know what
take back our lien, to forgive the lien against it.
Same. I remember discussing it, I don't recall if we actually voted on it.
Right, maybe that's.
Yes.
What I think that we did was forgive the lien against the property for the taxes due. So we forgave that money that was owed to the county to prepare it to be able to go to the land bank without the burden of the taxes on the property. And we did, and I know we did that earlier in the year. But this is a property that we're kind of all waiting to see how that will go. It will be more visible than some of the land banks projects that they've taken on in the county. They did a demolition in Richfield Springs, and they own another building in Richfield Springs, but this would really be their first very visible, right in the middle of Oneana project that would maybe show some real momentum for the land bank in the county. So I would endorse it.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote.
Fraser.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Stangle.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Overacker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty. Wilbur.
Aye.
Koenig.
Aye.
Martini.
Aye.
Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
5,853 ayes, 0 noes, 375 absent. Resolution 287 passes. 288.
Resolution 288, authorizing the sale of county-owned property at 16 Clifton Street, Unadilla, and authorizing chair to execute required documents. Kennedy, Overacker, Fraser, Cookman, Stanley, McCarty.
Second, any discussion? Again, this is just...
Yeah, I'd like to thank the committee for getting us to the point of sale today. It was almost 2 years ago that we first started, we pulled this back, and it helps my district. It'll help even more now it's back on the tax roll. My school and my village and town will be collecting tax receipts on it that they haven't for 3 years. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Again, this requires a 2/3 majority pass. Roll call vote.
Fraser.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Stangle.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Overacker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
Comments in our packet, it says the term is 3 years, and this one still says 2 years for the term, and then there's an extra sentence at the end that should have been edited out too, so.
All right, so why don't we withdraw that and let me make sure that I have the correct version.
We can discuss a little bit.
Yes, you can discuss it if you wish, or not, and I will.
We have late resolutions.
Yes, we do. So I just wanted to make one comment on the late resolutions. After the discussion we had, I decided to do a separate resolution, standalone, declaring an emergency with respect to the bidding requirements of our purchasing policy, and then we're doing a second one specifically about the roof. And I will be right back.
All right. So we're holding this over once we get it in its final form to a public hearing. I've already discussed a little bit about that. But my only concern with this, as I mentioned earlier, is the job qualifications. I feel it may be being a bit restrictive, requiring a master's degree in a specific field. I have no qualms about requiring a master's degree in general, but limiting to business or public administration or related field. If you research what's a related field, there are only 3 fields to be considered: business administration, public administration, or public policy. I think that could be slightly restrictive to the pool of candidates, qualified candidates who could do the job.
I tend to agree with that, and I think the way of handling that situation is have a caveat of previous experience.
Right, which is in there, or experience, or a caveat that just says preferred. That could be preferred,
yeah,
as opposed to required.
Right. Agree.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I was hoping that we would be able to go forward with the qualifications as recommended by the personnel department. If it's the feeling of the board that they would like to change that, so be it. But my recommendation would be to go with Penny's recommendation, which is based on other counties with a similar position. And if we post the job and we don't have a candidate that is adequate, then we could revisit the qualifications. But I feel that this is an important position, and if we're setting the bar high, so I would rather set the bar high and see what we get before we lower.
Go ahead.
That sounds reasonable. However, you could end up in a situation where you have an individual that has very little experience but has a master's degree in one of those fields, and then have another individual that has a master's degree but 20 years of experience in the field.
Correct. And I discussed this with Penny myself earlier, and I thought she was going to try to be here today.
Probably here 5 hours ago.
Michelle.
So I'm, just for clarification, you're saying that in terms of personnel and civil service law, the term related field only means something very specific? Or could it not be interpreted more broadly?
It may be, I don't know, but if you, in my research, related field to public administration or master's, those are the only 3 things that ever came up in terms of college degree requirements and things like that, was MBA, PBA, and public policy. Those are the only 3 things that were considered related fields. Yes.
The only other thing is, in qualifications on number 4, there is a caveat in here that says, the Board of Representatives shall appoint on the basis of these qualifications and on the basis of additional qualifications that the Board of Representatives may establish from time to time. And I guess we should wait for Ellen to come back, but I have a feeling that she put that in there so that we wouldn't have to amend the local law if we needed to change the qualification. So it would probably be a simple process of just making a resolution if we decide to change this in the future.
And reposting at that time.
Well, it says these and additional, so that sounds to me like...
You would add instead of subtract?
Subtract,
Okay.
Is that correct, Andrew?
Yeah, and additional, yeah.
Okay.
I think Dan was next.
But he's already spoken.
Oh, he had already spoken, you're correct.
Okay, so I agree with Meg. I think that Penny did a lot of work on this, looking at other counties, what they have. We have someone, we want to operate a $120 million budget. And I think that a business-related degree, accounting, business, management, I think that's a good starting point. And if we aren't able to fill it, then we can look at something else. But to have somebody come in with a master's in chemical engineering and say, well, I supervised X amount of people, I don't think that's what we want. I don't think that's a step up, I think if we're going to do this, do it with those qualifications. I understand that not everybody has a degree in something. We ask our department heads to have a master's in what their field is.
And this person would be supervising.
Overseeing them,
so
and we already know that there's a
fair
reticence of acceptance that's
to
there.
be supervised by a person with your degree of education or experience or better. So that's a very good point.
Well, no, I didn't, but I was waiting until the line was shorter. But we don't have to hire anybody. If somebody comes, we're not forced to hire anybody who sits down in front of us and says, I'd like this job. So if their qualifications or their abilities or their personality or whatever it is don't seem right, we don't have to hire them. The other thing is I've been certified by the state of New York to participate in 3 professions, and the advanced degrees required to get those taught me nothing about participating in those professions. I had to learn it on the job. And so that's been my experience anyway, experience of a lot of people in my profession, is that a degree is nice, and it's something that it opens the door, it's a ticket, but it's not necessarily something that you're going to be able to use on day one to do your job effectively. And experience in the field is what's going to do that.
The problem I see with not putting preferred in there is you may call out a lot of people that would apply for it because they have experience, but because they see the definite requirements are there and they don't meet those requirements, they may not apply. And if you look at, if you're in a state agency, for example, my state agency, most of the people in my state agency are engineers. It's the bulk of our career field, but they're in the high executive management areas, and they're the ones running the agency. They started out as an engineer.
Andrew hasn't spoke yet, I think, and Marietta?
Yeah, no,
Have his hand raised. You did that.
I did. Yeah, I briefly put my hand up, and I agree with Meg and Kathy. I mean, we have to start, with a well-articulated, well-defined scope of the kind of individuals we're trying to draw. I think we can absolutely cast a wider net, but I think we have to start somewhere, and I think to Meg's point earlier, the many of the administrators and managers that we're speaking with have professional degrees, and so we're looking at them, and I think we're trying to build off of the success they brought to their counties, and I think that's where I look at this as being driven from, these individuals who are saying to IGA committee, that this degree is an important factor. So that's my perspective on it.
So I just wanted to speak a little bit to the point that Gary brought up and acknowledge that experience is a great way to learn things, and experience in people skills, those are definitely things that you learn more by experience and practice as you go. But the other piece of this job is the municipal accounting part of it, and the experience with handling a budget of, say, $110, $120 million. Accounting skills don't really have a lot of wiggle room in there. You either have to know them or you don't. And to have the knowledge and the education in the money part of it is going to be very important for us going into this if we're entrusting them to be budget officer. I would really like to see the experience with those very, very subjective, objective rules and regulations for municipal accounting. And those are things that you do learn, and if you don't have it in place, you could be a very expensive mistake. So that part of it, it's a nuanced position, we know that. Our best candidate is going to be someone who has these money skills and education and is also a great people person as well. So I feel to be asking someone to come in to oversee or, to be supervising on our behalf, our department heads, some of them who do have master's degrees, I feel that that's a very important part of it, and I'm
I
not...
would suggest that we eliminate the master's degree.
Well, with the municipal money part of it. With the money
You should
part.
keep the master's degree requirement, just the specific field.
So what would be your recommendation then?
Well, either the caveat or related field, or just drop out master's degree in public or business administration, just have it say master's degree and 6 years of a professional experience in the field of public administration. It would be someone who's been in that field for a long time.
I'd like the preferred better.
The preferred is better, I agree. To use your example, Meg, about the budgeting and the accounting skills, a CPA would not qualify under this current job
And
description.
I have a master's in school district administration and never took a budgeting or accounting course. So I had a $3 million budget every year.
He won't be applying.
So, right, that would be-
Again, I know engineers that handle $100 million budgets, huge budgets.
Anything else? Penny, is she coming? Or?
She's on her way over.
She's on her way.
She's been on standby. And
Excuse me? So we'll continue this discussion after we work on resolution A and B and Penny Bride. Okay, late resolution A. There are no objections. Late resolution A and B will be acted upon as presented.
There's C, right? There's three.
There's four.
And now C and B is good.
Oh,
Resolution A, B, C, and D. Any objections? Hearing none, we will proceed. Resolution A.
oh, you have numbers.
Resolution A has.
Resolution A will now be 289, authorizing the chair of the board to opt out of negotiation class in a national prescription opiate litigation. Kennedy, Oberacker, Frazier, Koenig, Stammel, McCarty.
Any discussion?
So, just so we're all on the same page about this, this is on the advice of the attorneys, the law firm we're working with in terms of the opioid litigation case that, or group that, class action that we've joined already is advising us that opting out of this is probably the most prudent course.
Yes, so we're not in a class action. We have our own lawsuit, which is joined with all the other counties on the state level. And our attorneys have advised us that they feel it's in our best interest to opt out of the federal, which we're not involved in anyway, because we sort of already have our own class, if you will, our county and other counties. And also in New York State, counties pursuant to the home rule have a lot more authority than counties in other states. So they advised us that it would be in our best interest to opt out. And sorry, but we just got notified of that. We have to let them know by November 22nd. So.
Any more questions? Roll call vote. So, voting yes is to approve.
You opt out.
Correct, yes. The resolution is to opt out, so if you vote yes, that means you want to opt out.
Make that clear before we vote. Roll call vote.
Frazier?
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Stammel.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Overrecker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty. Wilbur.
Aye.
Kootnick.
Aye.
Martini. Lappin. Shannon.
Aye.
5,853 ayes, 0 noes, 375 absent. Resolution 289 is passed. Take Resolution B.
Late Resolution B will now be 290, authorizing the chair of the board to contract with Benetech Incorporated for management of self-insurance workers' compensation program. Kennedy, Overrecker, Frazier, Kootnick, Stammel, McCarty.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Stammel.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Overrecker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty. Wilbur.
Aye.
Kootnick.
Aye.
Martini.
Aye.
Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
5,853 ayes, 0 noes, 375 absent. Resolution 290 is passed. Okay.
So we have in front of you Resolution C, which is the general declaring an emergency under a county purchasing policy. And D then specifically goes to the roof repairs because it's my understanding that that is the immediate need. So we can rely on Resolution C going forward if we need further contracting, etc.
So what do you need, no motion or second?
I'm sorry, so now they'll
She was just explaining
Yeah,
the
okay,
resolution.
you'll read it. and then-
So, a motion on 291,
I'll make a motion.
second,
Second.
discussion.
You motioned it, but you're
Yeah,
already on.
the committee moved.
Oh, that's right,
So-
I can't, I'm sorry, my
So
apologies.
second
I'll
is
motion
down.
it.
Move it.
I thought that was the emergency, I'm still on that, aren't I?
Yes.
Yep, okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're on it, so we'll go with Kathy and Peter. Any further discussion? Just a simple majority. Roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Stammel.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Overrecker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty. Wilbur.
Aye.
Kootnick.
Aye.
Martini. Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
5,853 ayes, 0 noes, 375 absent. Resolution 291 is passed. 292.
Authorizing the sheriff and the Public Works Committee to select a vendor for roof repairs for the public safety building and authorizing the chair of the board to contract for same for McCarty, Wilbur, Farwell, Lappin.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Stammel.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Overrecker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty. Wilbur.
Aye.
Kootnick.
Aye.
Martini. Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
This could be a recording. 5,853 ayes, 0 noes, 375 absent. Resolution 292 passes. Now, moving back to local law C of 2019, training has arrived. The discussion revolves around the qualifications. It's been suggested by myself and others that perhaps we could not remove the master's degree, but remove the specific the specific degree required or to add preferred, the word preferred.
Ultimately, my understanding is that you would like this to be other than competitive. I have the authority as the personnel officer only to create competitive. If you would like, I would submit it to the state were exempt, and under exempt you could create no qualifications or whatever qualifications you like. So knowing that that's the place that you want to go at some point in the future, to remove the specific degree requirement in public administration or business administration can be done. This was based on maybe 10 other counties and talking to subject matter experts in this particular area. So when looking at other counties that were similar to ours, they had as high as a master's degree in public administration or business administration or a closely related field, and 10 years experience as low as a bachelor's degree and 5 years. Ours requires either a master's and 6 or a bachelor's and 8. So what I did is I kind of fell in between the lowest and the highest requirements. So where I came up with that is from basically subject matter experts and other personnel officers in other counties. So in reference to removing that from the qualifications, we can remove it. We can say preferred. If you say preferred, just say preferred. We can.
But that puts it into the exempt class when you do that?
No, nothing puts it into the exempt class until I submit this to the New York State Division of Civil Service, and they will go through and they will decide whether or not it is exempt. And it's basically depends on whether or not they think a written test is practicable.
So you don't know the answer to that question yet?
Whether or not it will be exempt or not, I don't, but I'm pretty sure. I've never seen a county manager or county administrator position anyone that I spoke to in a competitive class. It just starts out that way because that's the way it has to start out, because it has to be approved by the state. I can only create a position in a competitive class, but I'm not aware of any position that's created under those circumstances, and those that have county charters often have removal or appointment at the pleasure of the board. This under, I think, alternative county government under county administrator can be by local law that Ellen has created at the pleasure of the board, and that I think you have written in the local law. This would not necessarily be a public officer's job. I checked with the state on that, and that's because basically this person is going to be acting as an agent of the board. So in doing so, they would be not having sovereign power. You would still have that. So this person would not fall under public officer's law, so this person would not necessarily have any kind of due process protection under public officer's law. So this person would, if you created in the local law to be hired at the pleasure or removed at the pleasure of the board, would be done in that way.
And Jerry was first.
Yeah, if we pass this as is and discover that we cannot find a candidate that we're happy with, we think maybe it's because it's too restrictive and we want to open it up, which is what some folks have talked about. How do we open it up? Do we amend the local law? And what kind of process is that?
Yeah, I mean, we would do that.
We would do that. Is that another first reading, second reading, public hearing, and so forth to
Correct.
amend it?
Yeah, you've had to do that in the past for, I don't know if we've had to make changes in our positions before, like changing residency requirements, et cetera. It's just a situation that occurs with public jobs.
And as it's written, Penny, related field could be an accounting degree?
It could be
correct?
finance
It's
or
not
accounting.
finance accounting.
Right.
But just to be sure that, because when I researched related field to Masters in Public Administration, and they listed, everywhere I looked, it only listed 3 things: MBA, Public Administration, Business Administration, and Public Policy. Those are the only 3 things that were considered related fields. So
Related to what? I'm sorry, related to what? Masters in
Those are
Public
related
Administration?
fields.
But that may be under Masters in Public Administration, but under Masters of Business Administration, because finance is often a part of an MBA degree as well as accounting. Those 2 degrees are considered to be related, at least through civil service.
But as Gary pointed out, he has a master's in public administration, correct? School administration, which is a form of public administration. And he has zero accounting experience.
Public administration would have one. It has a function of that, but.
Thank goodness we're not hiring
An
Gary.
MBA, you might get an MBA in finance, or you get an MBA in management, there's subsets of it. And so that's what you're talking about in Greenfield.
Can we put in there preferred and then put a demonstrated experience in accounting?
Right, well, to me, just adding the word preferred is
Then we'll choose based on what our preferences are.
right, because ultimately, ultimately it comes down to, we're going to interview somebody, if they are qualified or not, it's still going to fall onto us. If we are overly restrictive and we do not get a good candidate in our initial pool, this is going to be kicking this can down the road for months and maybe even years. I think the intent of this was to get a manager on base sooner rather than later. I'd rather be less restrictive than more restrictive, because we may get a candidate that's, we may be missing out on a good candidate.
Ellen, this is the email I sent you this morning, and I didn't get your response because I was driving. Is it a legal necessity for us to put the qualifications in the local law as long as they're someplace else in the job description? Do we have to have them in here?
Well, I've seen it in other local laws by other counties. I don't know if it's legally required to put it in there. I know when we tried to create a local law in 1993, it was put in there. I don't know if it's put in there based on that's what the preference of the board of supervisors or the board of representatives of the legislative body wants to do, or whether it's something that's legally required. I'm not sure that it would be legally required. I think more of the power and the duties seem to be what's required by local law.
Right.
So, I mean, if you were to take that out, I don't think it means it doesn't exist, especially if we're going to go for an exempt status at one point in the future.
Yeah, I mean, all the templates that I looked at did have the minimum qualifications in them, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was legally required, so I didn't have a chance to research that between now and now. But I'm happy to look that up for you,
I think as long as the powers and duties are in there, because that's going to make a difference as to whether or not this person is equal to the board or reports to the board, or whether they're a public officer or not. So as long as the powers and duties, I think, are stated in there, I don't know if it's required for the minimum qualifications.
The critical components are creating the job, giving it a name, giving it a term, and giving the powers and duties. I can check on that to see if we can take them out.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're forgetting that there's an or between numbers 1 and 2. So we're saying you have to have a master's and 6 years, or a bachelor's and 8 years.
But the bachelors are still in the same
Well,
field.
yeah, I mean, but...
Business or management.
Yeah, and they're all related, it's the same.
I would just make the motion to make the modification of adding the word preferred, just so, because I think we would like to keep the substance of this, and I don't think that adding the word preferred undermines the overall scope.
I would agree with that 100%.
Except.
I'll second that.
Let's hear the except.
For Michelle.
I would just be careful with your grammar if you say a master's degree in business or public administration or a related field preferred.
But preferably before that.
Yeah.
Or a preferably related field?
No, preferably in a master's degree, preferably in
And
You're right, Michelle, the grammar counts.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would be section 4, number 1, with a master's degree preferably in business or public administration or a related field.
Yeah.
Which would open it up to any master's degree. And if you did the same in bachelor's degree, it would open it up to any...
But we can still make the ultimate decision.
the board still controls.
You're looking still for the 8 years